before?
It's been a while.
Been a while. Okay. Now I got to get ready to edit the episode because Mevo decides that it wants to do a free advertisement every time someone goes live from them now. And it just says live from Mevo.
That's
Before I could type on here what the episode was going to be about, and they totally disabled that feature. So there's our issue.
Now, the real question is Mark Wenning going to do anything with this on his Facebook? Because it looks like the last thing that's on his on his Facebook, or the last thing that's updated, was from Ag Day, FFA Ag Day. It's been a minute.
The only thing I use the Facebook for is junior leaders.
It's for its junior leaders.
If it wasn't for that, I probably wouldn't even have Facebook anymore.
It says you still live in West Lafayette.
I never said I lived in West Lafayette.
It says you do.
Huh. I don't remember ever updating that.
It probably
I thought
said
I always left it as good old Cambridge City.
You were probably at Purdue at the time, so it probably just defaulted to West Lafayette. So it still says you live there.
It's been a few years.
You're one of like 9 people in Henry County that have a Cambridge City address. Probably they're probably all Wennings or Janoses.
Well, or Goggins.
Yeah.
There's about 2 families. No, actually, there's a few more than that, but there's not many.
Greg Phipps taught me to never let the truth get in the way of a good story.
I think
we might make up half
absolutely
of them.
True.
All right. Feel good?
I shared great.
It. My mom and Kyle Hupwood already liked the video, so I know it's real. I know it exists. It sounds like I got a tick out of nowhere.
Yeah, that's weird.
That's going to be fun. I'm going to plug it in just at the moment we need it.
Okay.
And pray.
All right.
And pray this works. All right. Everybody ready?
I'm ready.
Feeling good. Here we go, Internet people. Welcome to the Boss Hog of Liberty podcast on the We're Libertarians Network. I'm your host, Jeremiah Morrill, and as always, I'm joined by our co-host, Dakota Davis.
What is up, Jeremiah?
This is either episode 72 or 71 or 71.5. We've been negotiating that amongst ourselves.
Not 100% sure. We went basically 2 weeks that we've been having a chat going, getting this show ready. It's been titled episode 72. However, we went back and looked.
Upon further review, episode 71 doesn't exist yet, so here we are. Our show is about our lives in rural Indiana. It's a show about folks who are involved in politics, and we promise that our episodes are going to be a fun and an easy listen. We interview people who are influencers, elected officials, political experts, and folks we just find interesting. Last week, I inferred that we were going to try to have a high-profile guest. We didn't get that today. We got his die casts. What we were trying to do is do an ag show and talk about family farms. And we were going to have Craig Armstrong and Dakota Armstrong on the show. Dakota is a NASCAR driver, and his dad, Craig, is here in Henry County, and one of the largest grain crop operators in the state of Indiana, soybean, corn, and God only knows what else. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Corn, soybeans.
Corn, soybeans. Probably some wheat here and there.
No. We're thinking about looking at the price. We probably ought to be looking pretty hard next year.
I'm going to slide this back towards you just a touch and try to help out pick up the audio.
Maybe. I heard this wild rumor yesterday that they're breaking ground for wind farms in 2019.
Yeah.
Already.
Oh,
it took 10 seconds.
Did we really have to start that right off with the wind thing?
Oh, you know it.
The guests are just going to get up and walk away.
Oh, that's all right. It's going to be like flashing. All right.
The conspiracy theory part of the show comes up in a second when we promote tinfoil time. Right. On the other side of the room is my very good friend, Mark Wenning. Mark and I, apparently we vacationed together over the weekend. Mark and I are junior leader advisors for Henry County 4-H. Mark's the president of Henry County 4-H Association, and you're about a 4th-generation family farmer, 3rd-generation family farmer in southeastern Henry County?
3rd in this county, at least.
I'm the son of a 3rd-generation farmer.
Yes. So Mark and I grew up together, and we were standing at Indiana Dunes up in Porter County, and I'm still desperately trying to figure out what this show is going to be, and I'm hitting up Cade Koger because I was like, we couldn't get Dakota. He backed out. He's down in North Carolina trying to be a racer, living the Mooresville life in Lake Norman, I guess.
Huntersville, around that area. He might be moving back if you don't get a job. So.
Come on, Richard Childress, pick up the phone, man.
Somebody,
So I couldn't get Cade, and we called out Cade, and was like, "Come on, man, you got to do the ag show." No, I can't. I'm training for. He's doing something.
He's in a Brazilian jiu-jitsu tournament this weekend, so that is interesting.
I have high hopes for him to do well.
I do too.
He's trying to he's breaking into the heavyweight class, which apparently
super heavyweight.
Yeah, the super heavyweight. Yeah, and he's getting down into it, which is very impressive. He's been running. You look at his Facebook, and I think he's been running about 4 miles a day around Baker Park. Awesome. So our fourth choice for guest today is Mark Wenning. But I've been hoping to find a way to get Mark on here for a long time. We were standing at Lake Michigan, and I couldn't get Cade, and I looked at Mark and I said, "What are you doing Thursday night?" And he hasn't learned the Dakota Davis trick of finding out what I need first. So I think I'm available, and here he is.
I'm glad to see that I'm the fourth choice. You're really
Mark,
scraping the bottom of the barrel.
I really hope that this is better than the last time I fell for the trick and was cuddling Jeremiah in his crawl space.
Hey, Dakota, what are you doing Saturday morning?
I'll be in Brookville for IPA Day at Norris English Pub.
Our friend Aaron Ewert, myself, and my brother will be in my parents' crawl space doing some crawl space repairs for the Morrill family. So down in Rush County.
That sounds
fantastic. We could rekindle our crawl space date from last year. Anyway, so that we're excited to have Mark here. You're like our fourth choice, but Frank Reich is coaching the Indianapolis Colts, and he's like the ninth choice for their head coach, and that's working out okay so far.
So
I haven't played a game yet.
He's lost exactly 0 games.
Yeah. Don't bash on him too hard.
All right. So Patreon news, thank yous. What's going on in the world, Dakota?
We got a new subscriber today, right before the show started, and that was Mr. Rex Bell. So thank you to Rex Bell. He's joined the $10 a month club, so that's awesome. This week on Tinfoil Time, the topic was Elvis Presley is still alive. That the Tinfoil Time is a conspiracy show that Audrey, my wife, and I put on every week for you guys. If you subscribe at $5 or more a month on Patreon, so if you head over to patreon.com/Boss Hog of Liberty, you can get signed up and you can get that.
You didn't know that Elvis being still alive was a conspiracy?
I had no idea. No, so. Usually how it goes is that Audrey likes to do like research into this stuff. Like she really likes seeing the weird things that people believe. So she usually takes the reins, and most of the time I have a pretty good grasp already because I've heard of them and like read about them before. This one I saw the email Monday, and
Your wife emails you?
Yeah, and I was like. what in the world? Like, so then I read through it, and I didn't even read more about it. I was like, this is just dumb. Like, I don't think that this. How can you believe this is true after reading what she had written? And yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah, there's movies. Bubba Hotep was about.
There's
Elvis,
movies about this
about Elvis being alive in I think in a Louisiana nursing home still. Yeah. That was made in the early 2000s. So there's a song that I really think should be the theme song to to Tinfoil Time. Yeah,
now it's one that I just made with a little like voiceover work.
This is Diamond Rio. Diamond Rio has played Newcastle before.
Really?
Yeah, they played. Craig, do you remember this? About 10 years ago, they played the Arts Park Pavilion down there.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So. And I saw them live down in Florida once upon a time. So this little song here, it's called "It's All in Your Head," is the conspiracy theory song of theirs. I'm just gonna play the hook for it, and you give it a listen and tell me if maybe we can work this into Tinfoil Time.
All right.
For the permanent rotation.
I'll let you know.
All right.
He said, I preach the might choose the way. Don't ever trust what the government say. We never walked on the moon. Elvis ain't dead. You ain't going crazy. It's all in your head.
We never walked on the moon. Elvis ain't dead. Yep.
You ain't going crazy. It's all in your head.
Yeah.
That's your show, man.
That is like if our show was a song, that's what it would be.
And I looked it up when I listened to the to your episode this morning. I was truly excited. Like I have not had a clue about your what your conspiracy was. I'm like, oh my God, Elvis, great. And then Audrey's like, yeah, nobody knows about this except for Jeremiah because he's old. And I'm like, God, that's a stinger. and then I go looking for this video, this song, because I hadn't heard it in 15 years, but I knew it was out there.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a music video, and it's Martin Sheen and his son are in the music video.
What? Really?
Yeah, Martin Sheen, who's in The Departed and West Wing, and Emilio Estevez's dad, Charlie Sheen's dad, and then the third brother who nobody's ever heard of plays his son in this music video. So if you were a Patreon subscriber, you would have seen the video. I shared it in there earlier today. All right, enough of that. Enough crazy self-promotion. No, it's not. We got one more thing to talk about.
Yeah, we are always self-promoting. But now we have to promote you. You need to take off your co-host hat and then change it into your candidate hat and brag on yourself as a candidate for a minute.
Yeah, so I had the chance today to I grew up on Messick Road, Craig, in the 90s. And we didn't have TV, right? We had like 3 channels, but we had talk radio. So I'd be out in the barn working with our sheep and goats and horses and whatever, and 1070 was always on in the barn. So 1070 WIBC was like the thing we listened to. It's what we had. Apparently we were tired of country music radio. You can only listen to so much Diamond Rio. So I listened to Dave Wilson and Steve Simpson and those guys. So I got a call or a message from Rob Kendall, who we have booked on the show. Rob's going to come on our show in a few weeks. He said, hey, come on by, talk to me about the Boss Hog of Liberty podcast and your campaign. I've been talking about this jail issue that we've been talking about on this show. So I did a couple of segments on the Rob Kendall Show. It will be airing on Sunday on WIBC 93.1 Indianapolis, the biggest talk radio station in the state of Indiana. It'll be on at 1 o'clock, in the 1 o'clock hour down there. There's 2 segments. Of course, as Boss Hog of Liberty subscribers, if you listen to the feed, it's in your iTunes feed right now, so you can go listen to it.
That's right.
Had a good time. Bragged on Henry County a little bit. Thanked Dakota Davis for being my co-host. And we had some fun. So
yeah, I listened to it today, and you did a really good job. And I think that you did a good job of pointing out some of the issues that other candidates, other people who are maybe campaigning against you, that the ideas that they have for funding the jail, and why I think in my mind and in the minds of a lot of Henry County residents, really proves to all those people why you're the best candidate for the job.
I appreciate that. I sent it to the Libertarian National Party today and said, hey, you guys may want to look at this. And they listened to it and said, actually, you advocated shooting other libertarians. Or you advocated violence against other libertarians, so we probably can't promote it. And I said, oh, darn it. That's just the way I feel about Michigan libertarians, though.
Yeah,
some of them need to be purged.
Michigan libertarians and Illinois Nazis.
I hate Illinois Nazis. All right, so yeah, the last thing, September 13th is our target date. So we shared the thing on the studio, but September 13th, we're trying to do our first episode down on the new studio, far north of Q Avenue, almost to Broad Street.
Yep, still north of Q Avenue though.
North of Q, yeah.
Yep,
as is the tradition, north of Q.
Yep, we're making progress. I shared I did a mental walk around of what the studio looks like in its present state on the tinfoil time, and the things that are to be expected of that studio. And I would like to give a shout out to our landlords, Scott and Mike, about the work that they've been doing out there, and how, I don't know if you felt this way, but whenever we were touring it, I felt like they have gone above and beyond to really give us a wonderful end product.
Yeah, those guys, they care about downtown Newcastle and taking those buildings and setting them right. So they're not just trying to set up a building for us to lease for however long the Boss Hog of Liberty podcast exists down there, but they're setting up a building that's going to be an asset for downtown Henry County, downtown Newcastle for the next 20 or 30 years, and taking it back to the original brick and putting character back into that building. So they've done a number of them, the Edward Jones building and Tony Saunders building that he's in, and I think maybe Martin Shields' building that he's in across from the Elks Club or across from the Justice Center. They've done a really good job with downtown Newcastle. So I'm excited. I'm excited to have a relationship with them, and we're gonna have a lot of fun down there.
Yeah,
I'm gonna miss. This current place is gonna be like Motown. You're gonna try to sell it, but I think it needs to go into some sort of a trust because this reminds me of where all the music started in Detroit.
That's right. Yep.
Poor Zach next door, he learned today on Patreon that you were going to sell this place or you're going to be moving, and he's crushed. He's devastated.
Yeah, he's worried about hillbillies moving next door.
Hillbillies live here now.
Hopefully it's another Boss Hog of Liberty listener. Maybe they'll want to buy it for the memorabilia.
We're very close to where Kirsten Kronk lived.
Yeah,
and her house sold in an hour over on Main Street.
Yeah, That's good
Sold
news for
today.
me.
Yeah. Giddy up, man. All right. Let's get into it. You're like
All right.
12 minutes in. We owe it to our listeners to move on.
I agree.
Get this show in gear.
You want to do it, or you want me to?
Oh, you go ahead.
All right. I'm gonna start with a Craig Armstrong introduction. We talked a little bit about your son Dakota, which is a pretty sweet name.
Spells it differently.
Yeah, but whatever.
He spells it fast.
That's just semantics.
I wish it was with a T. It'd make life a lot easier.
Yeah, because whenever people ask me how I spell it, I always just say it's just like the state. So that's he can't. He doesn't have the privilege that I do.
Yeah. We have times that people had it on a race car and had it with a T.
Oh,
so
really?
I was like, man, that's pretty cool.
So
it's close enough as long as they're letting you drive.
Yeah.
You can't complain too much, I suppose.
There's a video going around on YouTube of your son Dakota whenever he was racing. Did an interview at Armstrong Farms talking about the immense amount of products that you guys produce. I don't know.
It was before one of the truck races at Kentucky that aired on Speed, I believe.
Yeah. So I watched that. I think Jeremiah watched it. Yeah, I know you watched it because you sent it to me.
I sent it to you.
And
I probably saw it live.
I knew you guys were a big family farm out here, but I didn't realize the expansive amount of product, like of crops that you produce, and the amount that you sell to ethanol plants like in Anderson and places like that. They called you in the video the largest producer of ethanol corn in the Midwest.
No, that was in Henry County. They just kind of screwed up on that.
Oh,
goes back to
that was in Cardinal ethanol, and they were asking us how many bushels of corn we have during the year, and
right.
They converted that over there. So it's got to be a large number. So it's large for a county, and that's how that took place.
That's where you say never let the truth get in the way of a good story.
Yeah,
man.
that's right. That's exactly right. Wow,
Mark, you are the largest soybean producer in all of Dublin.
Well, it's Cambridge
City. I don't know. Dublin Pike.
Dang it. So close.
In the Dublin Pike corridor.
Probably not even that, but we do produce soybeans.
Yeah.
You guys
Get that
produce
part right.
You produce seed soybean,
Premium
right?
seeds.
Premium seeds. Okay. So how is that different from the soybeans that you produce, Craig?
Seeds that he's planting, and guys, they'll rebag them and clean them, and farmers, will purchase them and replant them for seed.
Okay.
So most of my seeds are going to like Bungie to a crushing plant to make soybean meal and stuff like that. Morristown.
You just go down to Morristown, Shelby County.
Yeah. They do. I think during the season they'll crush around 175 to 180,000 a day, which that's 180 semi loads a day.
That's a lot of tofu. Does all of these beans just go to tofu or what? What do you actually go? What do you make?
It goes in everything, man. Hey, Tootsie Rolls, man. It goes into Tootsie Rolls, crayons. There's like
these are soybeans.
Yeah. Well, there's. I'm gonna give a card away if somebody can guess. Text it in or how many. 1 acre. How many crayons will it make? 1 acre of soybeans.
1 acre of soybeans makes how many crayons? And you get
a die cash. You have to come by Dakota's house and get it, or
we'll make arrangements.
Yeah, we can ship it off.
All right,
that's the way it works.
There's people watching the live feed. First correct comment. Down. It's got to be down to the crayon. There's no rounding here. It's got to be exact numbers only.
Yeah,
it's like guessing how many gumballs there are in the jar.
So do the
So
I found out when I bought these for 99 cents that we are definitely getting ripped off. We can make a lot of boxes.
I told Craig this before we got on the air, Mark, that you guys have the Farmer Share breakfast that the Farm Bureau puts on, I believe, every year.
At our farm?
No, I think it's at the Smith Building. Different counties do it. So that
your father is the president, right?
He was the president.
Oh,
past president of the Farm Bureau.
Liz McDonald is now.
Oh, okay.
The lovely Liz McDonald, another friend, and I served with Liz on the park board.
Yeah, you did. I forgot about that.
Yeah. She was with Purdue Extension for the Courageous, and she was man. That was a quick year though. I thought
1 year.
Yeah. Mark and I, we could have been like on and off like 7 times. We've been doing this too long.
Here we thought we'd found a replacement for one of us.
All right,
didn't work out.
Didn't happen.
Craig, the soybeans that you produce, I'm a very big fan of Japanese food. So they have food. They have food in Japanese culture called edamame, which is steamed soybeans with some salt. So are those the same soybeans that you produce? Can I go out to Armstrong Farms and pick me a basket?
I'm afraid not.
Ah, so close.
Now, he might grow them. You might grow them, don't you? I'm just messing with you.
I did just see them at the grocery store, though.
I know. I see them.
I think you've got to go now. You got to go while they're still green. You could try.
You could try steaming the ones out of a field, but I suspect they wouldn't taste quite the same.
They wouldn't.
They might be a little bitter.
You know what? That might be something that we have to do in the new studio.
All right, we're getting some questions, or we got some people answering.
You might not want to wait till the new studio. They might not be so green anymore by then.
Patsy Conyers and Brenda Howe-Grider both have come in with the exact number, 82,368 crowns.
That is it.
That is the number.
That is the ticket.
So you got some winners. Brenda and Patsy are the first two to Google it.
They get a die cast right there. They're right on the money on it.
And we will have Dakota Davis sign each car.
There you go. So
why does this say Davis instead of Armstrong?
He was here. So he'll sign it in crayon.
So take 24. These were 99 cents a piece. Divide that 24 into 82,000.
Yeah.
That's like 3,800 and some bucks an acre. I don't think we're getting that.
You're not getting $3,800 an acre off your crayon?
We're getting like pennies.
I'm not growing hops like the guys down there in southwestern.
That's a good idea.
If you want to grow hops, you gotta have some serious timber, man. You got to put in about 20-foot poles, don't you?
Yeah, I think they're.
And I don't know how do you dig those holes? You use a pile driver?
I think they're just using a postal driver on a skid steer.
That's it?
I believe that's how they've been setting the post.
Yeah,
I've been down there and toured it. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, I saw some pictures that they posted online, and they looked beautiful. I'm a big fan of hops and the things that they produce.
So, Mark, how long have you been farming?
Well, what do we define as farming?
You tell me. How does it start? You're a family farmer, so at some point you get stuck in a tractor, and then at another point they tell you this is yours to worry about, or how does that process work?
Yeah, I mean, at about 10, I probably started helping on the farm. I think that's probably pretty typical on a family farm. As far as when I first started, I think my junior year of high school, I first rented a little bit of ground and farmed one field. So
your junior year of high school?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, you have to rent from your dad? Is it like borrowing the car?
Grandpa.
My junior year of high school, I worked for John and Jeff Marlott and Bill, and they farmed, but I never got to see the actual farming part. I was just walking the rows of corn and cutting down sunflower seeds and things. That was my. Is that what you were doing at 10?
Some of that, baling hay. I probably started driving tractors a little bit then, but on a pretty limited basis. You can hardly reach the pedals at 10.
So, and then you're heavily involved with Henry County 4-H. What's your role with that group? For those that don't know.
Well, I'm president of the 4-H Association, which is the group that runs the fair, as well as along with Jeremiah. Well, Jeremiah's on the association as well, and we are the advisors to the Junior Leader Club, which is any kid between 7th grade and senior wants to be a little more involved. It's a countywide club. We do a lot of service projects, and we have some fun along the way, too.
That's it. We get to vacation together once a year.
Yeah, we went to a beach this year.
We went to Porter and Lake County, visited Lake Michigan.
I love the beaches on Lake Michigan. It's beautiful.
Pure insanity this weekend. This last weekend, we went up there, and it was literally like a 30-minute wait to get into the state park.
What?
We had no concept of how long it was going to take.
Oh, my gosh.
It was full.
That's nuts.
I had no idea where they were going to park us. Mark and I we've talked about taking the club up there a few times over the years, and we always struggled to get a reservation up there. And we're like, how in the world can we not get a reservation to the state park? And then we went up there, and we're like, oh, now we get it. It was surreal.
Interesting. We used to go up there almost every year. Audrey and I have been up there a few times, and it's always been wonderful. The first time that we went, we were driving through this neighborhood looking for public beach access, and then we started seeing really, really nice homes that are on the beach, and then all of a sudden there's a sign on the road that says you are now driving on private road. So it was the owners of the homes actually owned the road that was in front of them, and it was connected to a public road. And we started going back there, and like I've never seen houses of this expansive nature. I mean I work up by Geist Reservoir often, so I drive through there often, but even those places had nothing. Like there was one for sale, one of the small ones for sale, and Audrey looked it up on Zillow, and the asking price was $1.9 million, and it was like just a small one. It was incredible. I hope that Boss Hog of Liberty one day gets me to that point.
There's only so much oceanfront property in Indiana, man. You gotta.
Yeah, that's true. It's few and far between, with a private road out front.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. So the reason we brought all these ag people together, we have seen something happen at the national level, and we wanted to hear from guys that are on the front lines. And Craig and Mark definitely qualify for that. We've seen the U.S. government introduce tariffs on steel and aluminum imports into the United States, trying to help out our steel companies. U.S. Steel is based up there in the region where we were last weekend, Mark. You look off to the left and you see Chicago, and you look a little harder to the left and you see all the steel mills, and then you see the beaches. So Indiana is definitely affected and is a big time steel producer, bringing ore in, and then they smelt it right there in Lake County. They've been getting hammered with foreign steel coming in. So Donald Trump, when he was running for president, said, "Hey, I want to try to offset that and deal with it." So he added is it a 25% tariff on imported steel and 10% on aluminum, Dakota?
Yes, that's correct. There's 25% on steel, 10% on aluminum. And whenever I was doing the research for this episode, it was one of those things that I realized that I didn't know a lot about. And there was an entire history going back to the founding of our nation whenever it comes to tariffs that I had zero idea about, that I do think is very vital and very important to understanding the way that tariffs are set up currently and the way that Donald Trump has done it now, and my main issue with it.
So what happened then next, and Craig may be able to answer this, is once these tariffs were announced, a lot of the soybeans that you produce probably don't stay in our local market. They don't necessarily stay in, you bring them to Shelby County, Indiana, and those soybeans don't necessarily get consumed in Shelby County, Indiana. They go elsewhere, or they're in the global market at that point, and they may end up going down on a train and end up on the Ohio River, and then going out on a barge and going somewhere.
Most of the beans that we go to down there is basically processed. So there's soybean mill, and that mill's shipped, So like some of the barges, they load down the river. Them's the one that are shipped down, Ohio River. A lot of them are going over there. So yeah, we export a lot of beans, I think.
Over there being China or Brazil, or where are they going?
China buys a lot of beans off of us. So who knows? Brazil might be buying them off of us now and selling them to China. Somebody's got to cover that market. And I think it's 2 billion bushel of beans they've been,
So of America's exports on beans, on soybeans, we export about 30% of the soybeans that we produce.
Yep.
And of that 30% that we produce, China buys approximately 90% of those, which is an expansive amount. So whenever you're saying that someone has to cover that market, it's a huge market that does have to be covered.
Yeah.
And what their threat is, and it's one thought that, I think that every single one of us have had it when thinking about this is, they need our soybeans more than we need their steel, right?
Absolutely.
So it's that's obviously a big bargaining chip. However, I think it was July 1st, China came out and said that they're trying to secure deals with the Brazilian government on soybean exports. So you mentioned a minute ago that Brazil might be buying our beans and then reselling them to China.
I mean, it's a thought. I mean,
yeah.
Their transportation over there is horrible. We complain if we wait in line for 3 hours. Sometimes they wait in line for 3 days
to get offloaded with your product.
Yeah, so the transportation, it's getting better. Their railing's getting better, but we can ship and move and move a lot of beans pretty quick. So I think that's going to be an issue for them, whether Brazil, buys the beans off us and them ships go into port. Who knows what'll happen? Or they unload ships and, you know, there is contracts, guys that own ships that go back and forth. So who's to say they're from here or from South America? So I think that's going to be a thing that could play out. There's going to be a big hole to fill.
So when the president is getting into this sort of a tussle on the international market and it's affecting your livelihood, what happens? What goes through your mind, and what are you looking at? Are you nervous about what pricing is going to do? Are you looking for assistance? What's the feeling when this is the environment you have? You haven't had to sell beans yet. You had to harvest. These tariffs started getting talked about January, February, March. And so now you're looking at having to, I guess you'll run beans again September, October, November, December, somewhere in there?
Yeah, September, October. No, it's a concern. I mean, I'm sure every farmer that don't, beans were up there in price, and I'm sure a lot of guys got some beans locked in at a decent price, and then they just fell out of bed for about, almost $2 off of them. So, I don't know how they're going to make that up if they get this stuff settled. It's something that needed to be done. I mean, we can all sit there and say, well, it's going to hurt some, it's going to help some. I see where U.S. Steel's going to open up, 6 plants or something they're talking about. So
Yeah, I saw that too.
And, we're dependent on a lot of foreign steel. So, I think U.S. was concerned that, hey, if we went into war with somebody, where are we going to get our steel to build ships and tanks and stuff like that? So, I mean, we got an $850 billion trade deficit. We can't just keep doing it. I farmed in the 80s. So we left ground out. There was guys that went in a PIC program and they didn't plant any corn. They got paid to leave all their acres completely set out because we were overproducing.
Oh wow!
And basically we had you can leave 30% of your corn bases out, 40%, and basically the guys got paid to we were overproducing back then. And there was no market, so consumers only spends about 4% of their money. We're the cheapest nation to eat. Only spending 4% of your income. In some of these countries, they're spending 50%, 100% just to stay alive. Getting back to the tariff thing, I'm sure it's a lot of concern with a lot of people, but I think they'll get it worked out. I think we got a president that's a businessman. Whether you like him or you hate him, what he tweets. I'm glad we got somebody like him as a business guy, and hopefully they'll get something ironed out and make a good decision.
Yeah, so I think that point is where it's important to talk about the history of the of tariffs in the United States. So it's because I didn't know it. I didn't know the history. The entire time that I've been alive, we've been free trade with industrial nations, right? So I didn't realize that the second piece of legislation that ever passed through the United States Congress, signed into law by George Washington in 1789, was actually an act of tariff. So we needed a way to finance the debt that we had with France because of the Revolutionary War and how they helped us out with that. We needed a way to fund the travel for the elected officials that were traveling back and forth to Washington. So that the idea was we'll introduce tariffs on imported goods, and it was across the board. It wasn't we didn't pick winners and losers by deciding who we were going to slap a tariff on and who we weren't.
So we just had a flat 20% tariff on any imported goods into the United States.
The 20%, it was much lower in 1789. But the average that I found, it's really hard to find absolute numbers for a lot of those dates. There's like 100 years that I couldn't find actual information on. But I did find a website that said that the average tariff from 1789 to 1913 was 20%.
So, and then in 1913, basically for that time, our federal government was mainly funded through tariffs.
Correct. 90% of our federal government was funded through tariffs.
In 1913, that's when we introduced the 16th Amendment, and that's when we started instituting an income tax. And then tariffs have changed over that time. And since basically in the last 100 years, they've not been a level tariff. Now you've got this arbitrary. We've got tariffs that protect
Some
this
places
industry. They go
have
against
grown,
others.
some places haven't. Most of the tariffs that we have now are very, very low. But the reason that the 16th Amendment was introduced and why in 1913 we decided to have an income tax is because the American citizens were getting really angry because anything that they bought that was imported was very, very high in price because of
Couldn't
the
get
tariffs.
that French shirt because it was
Right.
it cost more money.
It was very expensive. So we got tired of it, and we started asking our elected officials to try to figure out other ways to fund themselves. And they brought up the income tax, which is back then was very, very. I mean, we're talking a single-digit income tax, right? And then they were able to cut a lot of the tariffs. So that's where the idea of the income tax comes from, is relief from tariffs. And in 1930, there was another tariff law that was signed in, and I believe it was from Coolidge, maybe.
You're listening to Tariff Talk on the Boss Hog of Liberty podcast with Jeremiah Morrill, Dakota Davis, Mark Wenning, and Craig Armstrong.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly who the president was, but I know that in 1930 we had a tariff act signed that was going to introduce tariffs on industrialized goods. So goods that we got from other industrialized nations, allies, other people around us. However, the language in that was very specific of raising tariffs in double-digit numbers on specific products. And the results that I found were pretty split, 50-50 of economists that say that had a direct correlation into the crash of 1929, and not, because there was a lot of uncertainty whenever the talks were going on. Just like there's a lot of uncertainty in the soybean market right now, and why the soybean prices have fallen 20% since Trump announced the tariffs.
So one other milestone tariff that's come along that I don't think people realize exists. In the 1960s, the United States had what they called a chicken tax.
Yeah.
And that is the reason why Ford only is going to make trucks in the future. We can't produce cars in a manner that work on the national scale, but we have a corner on the market basically because of this tariff on imported vehicles, imported trucks. That you have to pay a premium to import a Toyota or some sort of a German pickup truck.
Correct. Yeah, it was originally, so the Germans introduced in 1964. They introduced what's called the chicken tax on imported poultry into Germany, because at that time Germany was purchasing a lot of their poultry from the United States. So they decided, hey, we can make some money off of this. We're going to tax the chickens. And because of that, President Lyndon Baines Johnson was like, played the retaliation card that we've seen recently, and said, well, if you're going to tax our chickens, we're going to tax your trucks. So ultimately, it was defined as light trucks, which also included the very iconic Volkswagen van, the hippie van that everybody sees. So that was a big deal there. It was rather interesting. It never actually got repealed.
It's still there, and that's why Ford only makes money with their trucks.
Yeah,
and the Fusion is going to be dead because that's it's created the light truck industry.
Yeah, the Fusion is going to be dead. The dead Fusion.
It's the end of the Fusion.
We're talking about your Fusion or a Fusion in general?
All of them.
All of the Fusions.
Mine's one of the last.
Yeah. I had to delete some of it because I couldn't fit all the information on one page with the other stuff that we're wanting to talk about. But there's just what we have detailed is just the tip of the iceberg whenever we're talking about the history of tariffs in the United States. So if Steve Horowitz decides, another guest that's coming on in the future and a favorite, if he's listening to this and he's like, no, you're missing all these key details.
We're giving the 50,000 foot view here.
Yeah. We got an hour and a half.
we talked last week about Thomas Massey, and he had about a 30-minute video on Reason, and he talked about this tariff situation and how he generally would support tariffs if we were to drop it down to a level tariff again. But what happens is you have different industries that want waivers. So you go to the Commerce Department and you say, hey, I'm producing something. I make caskets, and I make them in Lynn, Indiana, and my factory absolutely needs to have a waiver so that I can use imported steel without paying this tariff. And you get your congressman, so you go to Luke Messer, or you go to Greg Pence, or Jeanine Lee Lake, or Tom Firkinoff, whoever the congressman's going to be, or the current congressman, and you get them to go to the Commerce Department and ask for you to give me a waiver so that I don't have to pay this tax, because I can't survive in business with this extra tariff. And then the Commerce Department may give that to you. The problem is then you end up with all these carve-outs, and all of a sudden Washington gets bigger and more powerful. What Massey was saying is, hey, I'm fine if we have tariffs, we can drop the federal income tax again, and then if we go to a 10% tariff or a 15% tariff on all imported goods, that's consistent with the way this country was founded and the way we operated for 150 years.
Correct. Yeah, I agree with him. I mean, that would help. So the issue that you brought up and the worry that everybody has with our massive trade deficit that we have, it'd bring it down. It would be a fair and level playing field, so you wouldn't see the retaliation from China on your crops, because they realize that this is across the board. Because right now we're buying steel from them, and that's the highest tariff that we've introduced. So it's I don't know. I tend to have a sour taste in my mouth whenever it comes to tariffs because of how I think. But I think that I agree with Thomas Massey in the fact that that is probably the most ideal compromise that you could ever reach. And
what's happened now is that they become arbitrary. So you have one elected official, the president, who then has a bunch of department heads. So you've got the guy that runs commerce has got all of these people that work for him in a bureaucratic fashion, and they say, hey, we think that there's a problem with imported German washing machines, so we're going to put just a tax on washing machines, Mark.
Which did happen January of this year.
So now, because we don't make washing machines in Newton, Iowa anymore, we need to bring those jobs back. We're gonna tax LG or whoever it is that makes washing machines.
Yep.
But then what happens is the blowback comes along, and they say, well, the hell with you. We're not going to buy your mousetraps anymore, or whatever the product is. You just end up with this spiral that comes along.
Right. Negotiation is a two-way street, and I think that Craig has a good point when he says we have a businessman for a president, and it's hard for me to look at this because I've never thought that Trump is an idiot. I've never thought that he's an idiot. I didn't vote for him. I'm not a hardline Trump supporter, but I don't think he's stupid. And it's hard for me to look at this and think that he's not using this as some sort of starting point bargaining chip.
Mark, from your seat, is this, your industry is affected by this? Is this something that you watch or pay attention to, or you just kind of continue on, and then when it comes time to make decisions about what you're planting or what things look like, do you make decisions at that time? Is this something you follow on the regular, or is it a wait and see? We've lost Mark's mic somehow. It's gone terribly wrong.
Uh-oh.
Can you hear me now? No, something has truly failed.
What's going on with Mark?
I don't know. Did Mark unplug himself?
I hope not.
He jumped out on us.
He's not unplugged over here. Oh my goodness. What a mess.
Try again, Mark.
Now?
Yeah.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah. It just jumped out of the third socket over there. Nobody knows what happened.
I didn't do it, I promise.
Craig's the one sitting over there.
I didn't touch
But
it.
no, I mean, we're paying attention to this. It's kind of amazing how much it's fluctuating. Just look at this week alone. On Tuesday, there was a belief that Trump was ready to talk, China was ready to talk, and soybeans shot up 30 cents.
Yep.
Hit Wednesday, and Trump's threatening $200 billion more in tariffs.
Yeah, he threatened to double down.
And we lose 17 cents. And that's on beans. I mean, everything was somewhat affected, but beans are the hardest hit because China's basically tariffed all ag products. They've done pork, corn, beef, wheat, but soybeans are the ones hardest hit because that's like, I was looking, 60% of our exports to China are soybeans. So that's why that's the headlining topic, but it's all ag products that they've tariffed.
Yeah. So whenever you say they've tariffed all ag products, were those original or are all of those also retaliatory?
Those were retaliatory.
Okay. I didn't realize that.
Right.
Very interesting. So is this going to affect if we're still in the middle of this trade war come next planting season? Is this going to affect how many soybeans that you guys end up planting?
I don't know what we'll do. I'm sure
It's a secret.
countrywide.
He can't tell the Chinese what he's doing. That's
I'm sure
that is a
countrywide you
confidential
will
decision
you
for
will
the Wenning
see
farm.
an effect.
Yeah. Nationwide, you're going to see less soybeans. You think?
Absolutely. You'll see possibly more wheat, more corn. Everybody's going to be doing the math and see where they can actually make some money.
Why do the Chinese buy so many soybeans? Are they making Tootsie Rolls over there too?
They buy a lot of soybeans. They use them for a lot of different things over there. And I think what was it, like 2 billion bushel they use of soybeans? Mark might know that. I had that written down on my phone. I was just looking at the notes.
That sounds right. I think from what I've
It's like
what I've seen, I
it's
think
a little
you're
over 2
right.
billion bushel of soybeans they use. So
I don't have that actually written down here. That sounds about right.
Yeah, we're gonna go with it and say it's right. If we get a message later, oh well.
I know it was about 15.5 billion total of
Right.
tariffs they put on
you do
all
know
ag products.
we're only like what 1.7% of the population farmers.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, just less than 2.
I don't know if you guys, if it's that bad, I don't know. It's not really a good thing, but suicides in our occupation, I just read the other day, is the highest in the last 24 months of anything out there right now. So
It's been it's been a real thing. I know the Purdue College of Agriculture has been looking at it and trying to look at programs and raise awareness. It's a legitimate problem right now.
But these people in this business, man, it's a passionate thing. We're farmers are, they're about raising a crop, and the margins are going to be tougher and tougher, and we got through it in the 80s. I'm sure that we'll go through a cycle. Carter had to put the embargo on grain back when he was president, so that kind of killed us during that time too. So it's we haven't went through any rough times, what I'm saying, in the last several years, and it's going to be interesting to see how we get through this.
So talk us through what happened in the 80s. I assume there was a lot of consolidation in the market, and farms you either got bigger or you got out of the game.
Well, what really happened, late 70s, early 80s, ground prices went up to like $3,000 an acre. I'm just talking about here in Henry County. And then what happened, interest rates went so high. I bought my first farm my senior year of high school.
They're variable rates at that point, right? I assume.
Yeah, I mean, some guys didn't have stuff locked in, but they were high. I think my first farm I bought, I paid 15% interest, but they were higher than that. They were 18, 19. Some guys bought them, then the interest rates went up, and then the ground prices went down. I mean, they couldn't even pay the interest on them. So ground went from from 3,000 down to $1,000 to $700-800. In the 80s, you could buy a lot of ground for $800 to $1,200 an acre back then. Right after that fell in the late 79s, early 80s, and basically the interest rate just ate guys alive. I mean, inflation and everything went up, and interest rates, it was booming the economy, but as far as agriculture, it took a real bad setback, and it weeded out, a lot of our neighbors, that just didn't get through it. Unfortunately, my dad worked at General Motors during that time, and we had, I got 3 other brothers and 2 sisters, and he was working at General Motors and farming, on the side. My grandpa basically farmed his whole life, and but during that time, I think it helped him get through it because he had a second job where a lot of guys, didn't. So I think I was on 9 farms this spring and one day planting corn. And I was a kid in the 80s. There was 9 different farmers that are not farming now. So it's and some of them's retired. It wasn't that everybody went broke, but there was a ton of guys that got in financial trouble. I'm just glad I wasn't born, 5 years earlier before that.
Right, and we were talking downstairs before the show started, before anybody else got here. You and I were talking that 30, 40 years ago, if there was a kid in high school and he said, whenever I graduate, I want to be a farmer, he could do that without having ties. But if I wanted to quit my job currently and go and buy the land, buy the seed, buy the equipment, I couldn't do that. I don't know a banker in his right mind that would try to lend me the money to do that. It would
not nowadays. There's just no, our margins. Everybody kids around, but if you have $500 and pet an acre of corn out, and let's just say $200, that's $700.
right.
And you do the corn, 350, 200 bushel a acre. It right now it's just kind of a break even. So you're hoping you get more bushels per acre, hoping you get better than a 350 price. But even if you made $100, that's a 15% on your investment. Not a lot of people is going to let you go out and say, okay, it's a great deal. Let's go buy these $300,000 combines and have at it. And it's a crazy business that we're in.
So what do you guys think of the? This is a question for both of you guys. What do you guys think of the $12 billion in federal aid that Trump has decided to issue you? Because I said earlier that I think that this might have been the start of a bargaining chip. The $12 billion that he authorized makes me think the other way.
The federal government could build like a brand new stadium for half the NFL with that money.
I found that pretty interesting because honestly, this year's crop, I mean, what they're going to base it on, I don't know what you've read, but
not a whole lot.
They're going to base it on this year's crop. You're going to turn in your actual production numbers, and they're going to split it up somehow based on that.
Okay.
The thing is, this year's crop, a lot of people probably had at least part of it sold. That's pretty usual to sell some of your crop ahead and probably got some better prices for that. The other thing is with crop insurance, depending on what kind of crop insurance you have, you could have revenue protection. And you can either, there's two pricing periods with that. There's a spring and a fall pricing period. So the spring price, I should have looked up actually what it was, but you get the higher of the two prices guaranteed to you.
Okay.
And so you'd be locked into that much higher price, depending what level. You can get up to 85% coverage, and then based on your
your
historical yields, insurance may cover a lot of the loss this year, actually.
Okay.
As long as it's a short-term problem, it may not be the end of the world. If this goes on 2, 3, 4 years, that's when this starts to become a real heartbreak.
Right, and this $12 billion, as far as they've said so far, is a one-time thing.
Right. It's not going to be continued or introduced in the next fiscal readings. But from my perspective, as someone whose livelihood doesn't depend on this, it seems like we've had a pretty decent year for growth this year. I mean,
around here, the crops are looking very good, yes.
Yeah. So it's going back to what Craig was saying about trying to get more bushels per acre than what you've had, then so this year might be better than what it has been in previous years, right?
Well, I think so. I think we had a perfect, I don't know, last year was just something else. It was replant and a lot of water and a lot of issues last year.
Replant a fourth time.
And so this year we didn't do any of that. I mean, honestly, it's probably since I've been farming 34 years, I probably had the best planting season that I could ever remember. I mean, just planted the crop, didn't really have to kill the hours, and everything worked out good on it. But, I think the crop's going to be good. We got this nice slow rain here the last few days. I think corn crop probably going to finish, help finish it out. Bean crop, we're going to need another little shower here in a couple weeks, but, I think we can be looking at probably above average on beans. So
yeah, I hope so. I've been there. I've never really paid attention to crops. I paid attention in 2012. We had a drought, and I was working on a farm at that point. But since then, I haven't really been paying attention until this year, or whenever I first started talking to co-host Cade Koger, and he started introducing me to the realities of your occupation. So that's when I really started paying attention to it. It was probably the end of last year, and it seems to be doing okay. But if it wasn't okay, we have the $12 billion that's coming from Trump. What other ways
That's just free money. He can just say, "Hey, I'm giving you $12 billion," and it just happens.
Yeah. So Mark Wenning gets a check for $12 billion. Craig gets a check for $12 billion. All farmers get a check for $12 billion, right?
Not exactly. But actually, from what Sonny Perdue, the
Ag Secretary,
yeah, said, well, I think it's about 7 or 8 that's actually going directly to farmers. 7 to 8 billion of that.
Really?
There's going to be some for trade missions, and I'm not exactly sure where it's all going. What I was reading, but
Yeah.
7 or 8 billion probably directly to the farmers.
You might get $100, Mark, when it's all said and done.
I might.
So speaking of that, so say for some reason at the very end of the year we have a plague of locusts and they eat all your crops and you're depending on these things. How can you help diversify your own portfolios of occupation that would make you produce more money to feed your families? I mean, I don't know how long that list would be.
You going to start growing hops, or are you going to look at other crop products? There's obviously this week there was a big grand tour of the new hog feeding operation that Chapman Farm has. That every Politico in the county visited that up in Springport.
How many candidates did go to that, Jeremiah?
Just about everybody. Peg Steffendahl was there from the 3rd District. Kennan was there from the 1st. Kennan Gray. I was there. I saw Chad Malacote out there. Senator Lysing was there.
Oh wow.
The two Daves that are running for state senate, Dave Ring and Dave Cravens, and I forgot the names. The 2 guys running for senate that are still on the ballot in the Northern District, they were there, and we'll have them both on, and I'll learn their names by the time it matters. Tom Saunders was there, so just about everybody. All the commissioners, all 3 commissioners are out there. The next commissioner was out there. So everybody. It was very well attended.
Good. I'm
the
glad to
Chapmans
hear that.
had a great event. Greg Bolander was there from Farm Bureau, and even past president and current presidents of the Farm Bureau, Wenning and McDonald, were out there. So
Did you
well
have
represented.
Did you have some delicious Chapman pork?
There was pork. It was catered by the Tri-County Golf Course. I don't know if it was originally Chapman pork or not. Learned a lot though. They 5.5 months to turn hogs out of there. They can do 4,000 in each of the buildings.
Wow.
So about 16,000 hogs a year out of those out of their 2 structures.
So yeah, you could do it. You could do a CAFO, or which is a concentrated animal feeding operation. Correct.
Correct.
Not a confined, as it's often misquoted. I learned that this week. I've always called it a confined animal feeding operation, but apparently it is not. I've been wrong, and I've said it on this show before. I apologize for my incorrectness. But you could open up a CAFO. Obviously, the issue with that being that is a
that
very
takes time.
full-time job.
Well, and it takes a lot of time to get there. You got to get through all the approval process, and it takes a lot of money to build one of those.
A lot of money. There's man hours involved that maybe you, while you're trying to yield some crop production, don't have the time to go in there and take care of your animals. So then you're talking about hiring staff, bringing more people on in the family. That's going to cut into your profit. And, I mean, that seems like risky business just as much as growing crops does to me if you're trying to really diversify your portfolio.
Livestock is a good option as a way of diversifying.
It's a good place to put your extra beans.
Yeah, exactly. When crop prices are low, that means feed prices are low. So you can often make a little more money in livestock while the prices are low. That's one option.
Oh, I have some facts here. A concentrated animal feeding operation is defined as having 1,000 head of cattle, or 2,500 hogs or sheep, or 100,000 fowl, 100,000 chickens.
Chickens don't take up much space, man.
I know, but man,
you can stack them vertically. stack them deep and sell them cheap. They don't just go floor space.
I can't imagine just walking into a barn that has 100,000 chickens inside of it. I feel like that's every time I think of that, I think of Napoleon Dynamite whenever he works on the chicken farm during the summer. But he's
ever seen any videos out of a hatchery?
Do the chickens have large talons?
All right. So Hannah Morrill from the 812, baby sister, she wants to know what the number one way is you guys can get make your ground more profitable. Mr. Mark Wenning. We'll start with you.
Make the ground more profitable?
Yeah, make your ground more profitable.
Sell it and build houses on it.
Well, that's one option. But the housing market, while it's up, Henry County, I don't think is really through the roof right now.
Not a lot of building permits in your township.
No, Dudley Township is not growing.
It's actually up this year. You see that number amount? It was in the paper.
Yeah,
the
they're
Milltown paper.
They're up about 30% on building permits. We've gone from about 10 to
I can't
18.
believe that with the rumor of wind turbines coming. Man,
Oh, here he goes.
gosh. Sorry about that, man. Throw that in there.
Oh man, that
Now
fence is
he's-
hot.
now
Do you
he's
want to touch
wondering.
it?
Can I be versified? I want to put some fans on my farm. I want
To cool down-
I want
to
to cool
cool down
down.
the-
I want to cool down my crop. Keep it cooled down at night. Keep the heat out of it. Mark knows when it cools down, man. Things would do good when it cools down. Them fans would help.
Corn,
the
corn
fans
grows
would
better
help.
with the wind
Yep.
on it.
I
Hey,
know, man.
Obviously,
it
fans
is
help
good
with global warming. They help cool down the air.
I would just like to have 8 or 10 of them.
8
or 10 of them would. 10 of them would not quite pay our property tax, me and my brother, but it would sure help out.
I would
So-
like to have one in my yard just so I don't have to pay an electric bill anymore.
Hannah is.
I could probably
is-
do that one with a short one, right? And I wouldn't have to go to Darren Jacobs about that.
Hannah's coming
right,
in
that's
saying
right.
that the correct answer is tiling your fields. She's saying that if you tile, you may have tiled all your fields
Number
already.
one answer, Sonny Beck said the first thing you do when you buy a farm, you ditch it and then you lime it. So said you can put all the phosphate, all the potash you want, but if your pH ain't right, it's going to tie it up. And he does when he buys a farm, he ditches it. I mean, we spend a lot of money on ditching. I got a company called A-Team Excavating, and we do county work for them. Rich Gregory runs it, and my youngest son, he'd rather do that, I think, than farm. I think he found a new occupation. He said that I don't know about this farming thing, but if I get up and go to work and I come home, I get paid. So
Yeah.
I said, well,
It does seem like almost every farmer has some sort of a side gig, or the wife is working or something. You try to have multiple income streams, whether it's you running an excavator or hauling grain or doing something extra, something on the side.
well,
And as we're talking about, we do drainage tile and a little bit of excavating. That is the side gig for us. So that's how we're diversified.
There you go.
So,
We
so
got-
if
we
you
got
need any
another-
bodies buried, call Mark.
yeah.
That comes with a very high fee.
How high?
You don't want to know.
I
You
might,
can't afford it. That's what he's saying.
if you have to ask, you can't afford it.
We got a buying group. I think you guys bought some stuff off of us in the past.
Yep,
Anhydrous.
Yep, we have.
We sell anhydrous to other farmers, and of
You
course
sell
my
it to-
son my son.
Hang
would-
on.
oh,
You
wait,
sell it to meth heads too?
No, no. I don't sell it to them.
I'm pretty sure they found recipes that they don't need
I
anhydrous
don't
for
think
anymore.
they need anhydrous anymore. But no, we
That
we,
stuff
we,
is nasty stuff, man.
Yeah,
I
it
don't know,
is.
man. It is.
So, okay,
Right.
let's go ahead and get into it.
No, we're talking about the diversified here a little bit. So
Yeah.
no, that's fine. No, it's all
You've
good.
been pretty vocal in your support for wind farms.
Mhm.
You've gone to multiple meetings and voiced your support for them. I want to hear it from the farmer's mouth why it would be a good thing.
Basically, I just went and my experience. I just went and did the homework. I mean, I went and talked to people myself. I went to Benton County, talked to people there, talked to people at Randolph County, and
These are places that have installations
These-
that are
these-
running.
they've got them in there. And I would say, if I went and talked to 10 people, I would say most of the time it would be 9, if not 10. I even had a lady that gave me a ride on her gator, and I thought that was hers. Come to find out, she only owned 3 acres and jumped me my butt and said, "Are you one of them proposed, against Henry County, that's against anhydrous wind?" I said, "No, I'm not. I'm just here to talk to you." And she took me back there, and we listened to it, and she brought me back behind her house, and she said, "What do you hear?" And I said, "I hear your air conditioner." So she goes, "Exactly." So, my thoughts are on
How
it.
close did she live? Do you know the distance from her to
she
a
was-
foundation?
She was 1,100 feet from one of them. I think their rules over there was 1,000 feet.
Okay.
So, and that's most of the state. And
And here the proposed is 1,500.
yeah, it's 1,500. The problem is price still went up, so that's probably gonna, hurt the deal down the road here, So my deal, just figuring it out for the county, would in 30 years, just from the math, if it stayed the same, they would receive almost $42 million of revenue, even with the tax abatement. And then you have the farmers, which if they put 100 of them in, it's about $10,000 per turbine. There's another $1 million. And then some of your neighbors who are not opposing, they're going to get some checks. You know what I mean? They're going to get paid for, to have to kind of look at them and stuff. And then we're going to get some new roads.
Just to be clear here, I mean, it's always talked about the farmers are going to get all this money. The farmers aren't anywhere near all the landowners in the county. We rent a lot of land. There's, just neighbors that have an 80-acre piece of land they rent to a farmer.
They might not farm it.
No,
right.
they don't farm it. But if the wind turbine went up on their land, they're the ones that are going to get the income from that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I got a lot of money. I'm sure he does too. It's on a fixed income. So when you're paying, the rate of $40 to $45 an acre, and just in property taxes, and the landowner and the farmers are paying, if you look at 71% of the county tax. And my problem is I don't really care what my neighbor really does. I got some neighbors. I bought a place and had it cleaned up next to me, but I just think it's. I know when I was growing up, my dad always said, if you buy a farm, tear down the house, or rent it to somebody that rent it out, you have control over it, because one day. You'll have trouble. Somebody wanting to, they'll complain about the smell of what you're spreading or dust and we have that. I'll be honest with you, we have that now. So it's sad because it is an ag culture community, and I've had discussion with my neighbors. I sit down with Gary Rogers. I sit down with Eddie, at lunch, and we've had. I'm not afraid to oppose to sit down and talk to anybody about it, but.
So in your viewpoint, we hear all the time from different candidates for office and different people that are around Henry County that are vehemently opposed to wind farms. And they give us all kinds of information. We had every anti-wind candidate come through the studio during the primary election.
We had every candidate come through, not just the anti-wind candidate.
I'm just making a point with them, and it's. Do you think that the bad things that they brought up outweighs the good?
No, because I actually did that.
Okay.
The flashing light, the so-called noise,
Right.
I've stood at the base of one, and it's got a hum. I live close to the interstate. There's every bit as much hum coming off the interstate as there is off of a wind turbine.
Do you have an official position on wind turbines, Mark? Or would you rather stay neutral?
Personally, I think it's landowner's choice. If they want to have them, they can.
Yeah.
I had a contract that was presented to me. I didn't sign it. We've got everything tiled. You hear about crushing tiles, and then you're cutting up fields that you've worked so hard to remove fences and make a bigger, easier to farm field. So
you actually did turn down a contract or signing a lease for the windmills in southern Henry County, correct?
Yes.
Okay, interesting. That's really interesting.
So,
I didn't know that.
Let me ask the question.
Well, I don't own as much land and wouldn't have been sitting in a place to make near as much income off of them.
You didn't have the opportunity. You had one or two, I would assume.
I don't know how many they would have maybe or maybe not put on my ground.
Okay.
You
didn't get to that stage in the conversation. Right now, it looks like a political reality is that you don't have the votes in this county council or the next county council. Though I've done the math, I can't come up with more than maybe 2 votes for an abatement in this council or the next one. There's not been a wind farm constructed in Indiana without a county tax abatement. Do you think that there is a future if that's the case? Can they be built without? Because there are candidates out there now saying, regardless, 2019 ground's being turned.
Well, the deal is they did give the abatement. They did give the Apex or whatever. They did give them a tax abatement. So if he was going to build a hog barn and he wanted, I'm just saying they don't give tax abatement, and they gave him an abatement in southern Henry County, and I moved up to western county and I wanted to get a tax abatement. Right. And a couple of years later, they don't give me a tax abatement. Don't you think that could be a little,
right?
A little. I don't know, man. It's going to put yourself in a situation. It's going to put some people in the county. Maybe I'm sure these landowners ain't going to sit back. I mean, you got to look at them. A lot of them that signed this deal, I'd say over half of them don't farm. You know what I mean? They're not farmers. You know, they're landowners that, you know, you're restricting them in income. And
but one is expired now, and the other one expires at the end of this year, right?
Yep. But you still honored them.
Through the end of this year.
Yep. They got, you know, they did get a tax abatement. So Boar's Head, they got a tax abatement. But even with that,
So
even with the tax abatement, it's still going to bring in 30 years almost $42 million. That's how we figured it.
I guess the difference is
That's just on that part of it.
I'm solely opposed on tax abatements across the board. And personally, I think that's government picking winners and losers. However, I do see the difference between Boar's Head, which employs hundreds of people, and having a windmill put on your piece of land that might get inspected every 3 months by a wind company employee.
They're actually going to have like 15 people or something like that that'll be sticking around in this area. But here's the difference. Boar's Head put in a little bit of a road out there. They're going to be putting in several miles of brand new road, wider, better. I don't know, maybe our county roads are just awesome. I don't know if you guys, you know, but they're just like perfect, you know.
That's all. That's Mark's fault.
So anyway, it's, you know, not to pick on it, but, you know, even if we got 10, 15, 20 miles of brand new roads, that's several $1 million. It could be anywhere from $5 to $10 million. That's actually, you know, that's going to be brought back into the deal.
Because what happens is during the construction period, any roads that are destroyed, they have to put them back to at least the condition they were in. And what's probably going to happen is they're going to end up replacing the roads. So any of the haul roads that they used to construct the project would get replaced.
And the difference is, you're saying that Boar's Head, you don't believe in the tax abatement. Think about the landowners and the farmers with that money that they're going to get paid, that money. We don't hoard money. I mean, honest, when farmers make it, I'll be honest with you, I'd say we spend it. So whether, you know, we're only 1.7% of the, you know, the population, but we control almost 32% of the economy. So that's the reason why they want farming, you know, to be good. We don't hoard it. You know, farmers buy stuff, they do stuff, they build bins, you know, whatever. I mean, they spend money. So if farmers are going to make money, you know, they're going to spend it. I mean, it's just you know, the vital of it. But, you know, getting back to that, so that money being spent on the local economy back in Henry County, I think it's pretty important. And I don't know, it just, man, we let an ethanol plant get away. We left you know, several things that this county's missed out on. And I'll guarantee you, go to Randolph County right now and ask them how much money they got. You go check and see how much money they got in their bank account. They got solar panel farms. They got, you know, they got the wind turbines moving in. How in the world does the state of Indiana get the ethanol plants in probably some of the worst area of the state of Indiana in that area of that ground? I mean, it's the least producing, you know, corn and soybeans, and yet they got all the ethanol plants over there. You know, so you kind of scratch your head that somebody over there may be making some better decisions for the county. That's the only thing I can think of, because financially, they're going to be way better shape than Henry County down the road.
Why? And so, from my perspective, I'm not a supporter of wind farms because of my occupation. I've talked to a lot of people that deal with them in power delivery where I work, and it's just a pain in the butt. It's gonna make my job a lot more difficult. So, and that's purely from a selfish standpoint, and I understand that. But
anything gets you home by 3 o'clock.
Yeah, all right. You work for Duke Energy. They want to charge us $11 per kilogram. So yeah, but we want to get it cheaper.
So anyway, for
picking on now.
With
he works for one of the 4 letters. I've never said if it's Duke or the other, right? Or RNC or yeah.
IMPA. I'm moving to Spiceland. That's where IMPA is right now.
You're gonna dethrone Darren Jacobs. Look out, Darren.
Yeah.
No.
But anyway, so with the perspective that I have, why do you think that there has been such a strong objection within the county to wind farms?
Oh boy, where do I start? You know?
We've got 15 minutes left.
You know, I look at there's probably 5 of the largest farmers have signed up in that area there, and you know, and if you look at them, a lot of them's done a lot of good for the county. You know, look at the stuff they've done, and I know one guy in particular, you know, probably the largest landowner in the county, and you know, they're in the gas business also, and you know, I seen him come in one day, and a lady owned $1,600 for her gas bill, and they said, just go ahead and take her gas. You know what I mean? So I don't know what other people, that does that, helps the community. And I just think it's their right. And I think as far as getting back to people, I don't know, I went around and talked to some of my neighbors that had signs and people were going around and saying that we were going to put them 200 feet, it was going to kill their property values 50%. So, but then when I started looking at these houses that's sold, even people's arguing about it hasn't hurt. I mean, even the rumor of them coming in, these people still made a pretty good profit. And
How close would the closest one to be to your house?
I'm going to move one real close. I want it right there.
You want to be as close as possible?
1,000 feet. I want 1,000 feet on my back door. I want to look out and.
You'd be okay. You truly would be. You have no objection if it was.
I look out my kitchen window. I see WCTW lights from the radio station flashing at me.
Yeah.
So when I go in town, I would stop at the train track, not change the subject, at Goodyear. There was a train that went through there at 1 o'clock in the morning, all the way through town, just laying on the horn, and I'm thinking, man, that is like, 1,000 times louder than a wind turbine, you wouldn't even hear it. So, but I don't know. When it comes right down to the people, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. Just think like people don't want to see people do good, and I'm opposite. If somebody does good, I'm happy for them. But I really believe that it was the same thing when the, east or west of Caddis, we had the power plant. There's a lot more people protested that. It was going to kill us all and all the pollution it was going to put out. You don't even hear it running. You pull in there during the fall and you'll hear Jay Crunk's grain bin on the other side running over the power plant. So, and it's our number one tax thing in our county. It brings us almost $1 million a year. I want to get it exact because they'll confront me like it's $900,000. That it brings in.
I have it down to the penny, Craig. Or else there's going to be held to pay.
Really, I'll be held accountable for that. So. But no, I just, do I think there's some jealousy? Probably, but I don't know.
Tell you what, Craig, you get the materials together. I'll go help you build one in your backyard.
I want to build one. I really do.
I think it would be a fun project.
Could you have a recreational windmill? Like, could you build your own?
This is purely recreational.
I don't know. I'm thinking about just building my own.
What is it? You got to stay under 200 feet or something? Without getting special permits.
So. Yeah.
And that's it.
Put a pretty short one in.
I understand that because we have the municipal airport here, and you have all the. That also affects you guys with crop sprayers. So I understand the height requirements.
So
at
this point, you still have hope that the project's not dead. You think it still can be constructed?
Yeah, I think it can be. The deal is, them driveways that they put in. I like the ideal that we get to use them driveways. We get to use our own tile guy. If they cut a tile, we can call a guy. We set it up on a contract basis. But I like the ideal I can use that driveway to pull in the fall of the year. Because it's kind of risky when we park our semis on the side of the road. I'm not lying to you. It's just, you don't want to see anybody ever get hurt. But that was one thing that we made in our contracts. Hey, we want access to them roads to be able to park our trucks off the highways and off the roads. So, as a liability.
You're talking about the contracts, and from the opposition side, I've always heard it's all the secrecy and you can't talk about what's in it. But you're saying that you can.
I'm just talking about dollar-wise and stuff.
Right.
I'm just saying that everybody would be treated the same. Everybody's, he's getting this, getting that. It was one thing that we sit down, Cal, and we said everybody wants to be treated the same. So if somebody wanted a better deal, then everybody else would get the better deal and just treat everybody the same. So, I wish when they first started, they would have just came in and got everybody kind of together. You know what I mean? I think it just started off on the wrong foot.
Starting off on the wrong foot, yeah.
And just let everybody, sit down and talk and, see what's the best for the county instead of just, because there's really not a lot of farmers that oppose it if you stop and look at it. If you look at the people in the meetings, there's maybe one farmer, but there's maybe a couple landowners.
A loud group that turns out, though, is opposed to wind farms.
What's that?
There's a loud group that's at these meetings that are voters that are vehemently opposed.
49,000 people in the community, and there's 50, 60 people been showing up lately. So
yeah. I know what it's like at the meetings.
Take
I know
a
how
vote
small
on it. Take a county vote on it.
Do a referendum.
Just
Let's do it.
That's not-
49,000 people vote if they want wind turbines in the county. I got no problem with that.
That's not the way
I'm
the
good with
county
that.
government
And you know-
works, man.
And you know what?
Let's petition.
You could probably have some sort of a private election and let everybody come out and vote. But unfortunately, we're not set up that way. We can't do a referendum. That's not unless we're raising property taxes. That's pretty much the only way we get to do referendums. Or we change the Constitution or raise property taxes. That's the only referendum we get.
Craig and I were gonna petition the state government to let Henry County do a referendum on wind turbines.
You could probably privately have a referendum and have people
think-
turn up, but it wouldn't be
Probably.
through the county government. But you could do a poll where every registered voter could show up.
Which would be a lot more scientific than Facebook polls.
It would be better than a Facebook poll. Mark, what do you think? Is there hope, or are we flogging something that's dead already? Play pundit for me.
My feeling has been that it's probably dead at this point.
Yeah, dead in the water.
I know
All the evidence seems to suggest it.
at least on the southern side of the county, I'm pretty sure that that's dead. I don't know. You obviously know a little more about the northern side.
So what do you guys think about solar panels?
I heard that solar panels smell bad.
Oh my!
I don't know if that's true or not. I heard it.
Hey, I got them down there at 70 on the farm, on Bobby Thompson's farm.
You
Go
know,
down there and smell them in the morning.
to
There's
be
a
honest
lane.
with you, I'm all about clean energy. I really think it's important. I think that we have really undersold nuclear power. It is it is the best option that we have for clean energy. It's not even dangerous anymore. There's so many things that we do that have sidestepped. I mean, a catastrophe like Chernobyl could never, ever happen again with the way that reactors are built today.
Well, I got one guy that's opposed to wind turbines, and he drive live next to a nuclear power plant.
So the way I look at it is I don't think I have the
True
authority.
story.
I don't think I have the authority to tell you what you can and can't build. Right, your ground is yours to develop. The only aversion I have is having the county government go out and give an abatement. But I've had that position where I don't want abatements for any of this stuff. We're picking winners and losers. I just want a level playing field. I want lower property taxes and lower income taxes and lower sales taxes for everybody. But you should be able to develop whatever you want. As long as you're hurting your neighbor or violating his property rights, I think you're fine.
What are you going to do in the other county? Don't give them give these people a tax abatement to give their people jobs.
Well, that's a race to the bottom at that point. The other county ought to do the same thing. They ought to say no. We unfortunately, what we do is we pit 92 counties against each other, and then you're fighting against Randolph County or somebody else.
Yep.
I'm just telling you from my view.
Oh,
I want a fair field for everybody, because somebody is going to get.
So if someone
you're going to
gets-
end up negotiating and cutting against each other.
So what you're saying is that if we're given a tax abatement to Boar's Head, any other private industry that comes into Newcastle should have a tax abatement. Is what I think.
lower everybody's taxes.
Yep.
Well, you're
Everybody should
unfair
have to pay the same property tax, which is 0%.
Yeah, they
view.
were questionably unconstitutional until they put them in about 10 years ago.
And Ron Raman, if you want to build a porn shop on your land, absolutely you can, because it's your land, and I can't tell you what to do with it.
Yeah. Anybody that wants to voluntarily show up at your home porn studio, go right ahead, man.
Yeah, that's right.
That you're not going to have that fight for me.
I'm not going to show up with the threat of violence from the government.
In a good Christian county like Henry County, I think you're probably going to struggle anyway. So you're going to be out of business in a couple of weeks, and you may have protesters. But you can open up anything you want to.
Didn't they try to do that south of 70 a few years ago? Was open up in a XXX adult store?
I am unaware of that.
I think there was a little bit of talk about it. I don't think it went very far, but I think you're right. I think there was a little bit of talk of it.
We could have had our own porn shop in Newcastle. What the heck?
We can't even support a good strip club in this town. It went out of business. I don't think.
Good?
Or a bad one. I don't know. I never visited. Craig might know more about it than we do.
No, I don't.
Yeah, I was never old enough.
Oh, there's eye rolling going on in the chat. Going, oh my God. We take this stuff seriously, and it's the same. It's the same application of principles. You can have any crazy idea you want to, and you're free to try it. But the market's going to tell you no. You know, you don't have to have a law to tell you that all bad ideas shouldn't be against the law. And when you do pass an ordinance, what happens is the sheriff's department has to come in and show up, and you put those guys in harm's way. Sometimes it's better.
Rex Bell's famous line is, "There's a difference between crimes, vices, and bad habits."
That's exactly right.
So, with that, I think that we're ready for final thoughts. We're already an hour and 25 minutes into this thing. Can you believe it?
Yeah, I can. Yeah,
yeah, you can.
When you're gonna have 2 or 3 pages of show notes, I knew it was gonna be one of those days.
Oh yeah.
All right, Craig, as a regular listener, we're gonna take final thoughts and give you a chance to promote things. We haven't talked about racing yet, so this might be a time where we talk about a little racing.
All right, let's change the subject.
All right.
But no, I was actually, my nephew's racing tonight at Anderson Speedway. They have a sprint car race over there tonight.
It's the Toothless 250. I watched a lot of Anderson racing on HBO back in the day.
No, this is actually not. It's actually
this is legit.
He's driving. Actually, Randy Neal owns a race car, and we got a guy that works on the stuff at the shop, and it's actually when they run the same cars they run at the little 500 the night before.
11 rows of 3.
Yep. So they're over there, and we're just. My youngest one's going to be running Winchester 400 coming up later on in the summer, and Dakota's just doing some testing. He's looking for a full-time deal. Even do a part-time deal. We talking to some people for next year, so hopefully that helps him out. That he can get back into doing it. That's what he wants to do. So other than that, I'll just I got to talk to Mr. Dakota over here and get him a. I should have brought him. I had a little statue, a little wind turbine deal. Should have brought him. Spin around.
They could have replaced the Rubik's cube.
We
put one in our logo. I requested one be put in our new logo because we've talked about him so much on the show. It just didn't feel right to not have it in there.
It's the Shenandoah wind turbine. Is what I was told.
Yeah,
it's in honoring the.
He never did ask. He never did ask my question though. He said they smell, but he wasn't opposed or nothing for the solar panels.
I'm not opposed to solar panels. You can regulate AC sine waves that come off of solar farms a lot easier than you can wind farms, which is my argument against wind farms.
So what your big Duke power towers you got with all these waves coming through there? So is it bad?
We'll call them brisket energy.
So is it bad to live next to them when you hear them things buzzing?
Man, I'm in there. I'm in and around them every day.
I mean,
it causes beard growth. I know that.
I don't. As far as I know, there's no these the people who preach EMF frequencies and the damage that they cause. There's no actual concrete scientific proof from major scientific organizations. So I don't believe it. I mean, I'm around it every day. I don't wear a lead suit every time I go in there, for a REMC or IMPA or wherever substation, that's, I don't know. And there's guys that I know that have been doing it for 45 years. It's that argument is null and void in my opinion, because I've seen proof otherwise.
But all jokes aside, I would sit down and have a conversation without getting mad with anybody in the county.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to do.
I mean, I think when people get all riled up about it, I just think it's crazy. But you know what I mean? It is going to be what it is. If it happens, it happens. If it don't, I'm not going to go to bed and crying about it every night. So it's just my personal opinion. I think it'd be good for the county.
Understand. Well, we thank you for showing up. How do people get in touch with you if they want to follow? They want to follow Dakota's Racing. They want to learn about farming and the kind of thing you do. How do they reach out? What's the best way to follow you?
Just follow. You can email me. It's Craig@DakotaArmstrong.com with a DA, not TA.
Just had to be different.
Yeah, but no, that's probably the best way is just email me, or
And did you do some racing too? Is that how you guys got started in this?
I just raced motorcycles. I would never let my kids own a motorcycle. I asked my dad one time. I said, "Why did you let me do it?" And he said, "Well, I had 3 other sons." So,
he had backup plans.
He had backup plans. So, no, motorcycles. I ride one, but I just didn't want my kids on one. So, yep.
But you had the knack for racing.
Yeah, we liked it. I actually, when Dakota won Talladega senior year of high school, I was home planting corn. His mom was there, and I had to go home and watch it on TV.
Was he in a Penske car?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So he's driven for Joe Gibbs, Roger Penske, and Richard Petty.
Well, he drove for Penske. Well, Penske kind of helped with the motor program with Cuttingham, so it wasn't like a full-blown Penske. They when we called over and complained, they would give us stuff. We had to call and complain a lot. So Roger's a really neat guy. Sitting in his motor coach one time, he's really pretty cool. But Richard Petty's like the awesomest guy, though, man, to sit down. He could tell. I could listen to hours of him tell stories. He told Dakota he drove his race car to a racetrack. A race did it, and the owner made him drive it back home the night after he won. So, yeah, drivers got it pretty easy nowadays. They fly in and get in the car, they race and go home. But yeah, listen to Richard Petty's stories was pretty cool. I mean, he's a pretty cool guy.
and your daughter-in-law was one of my horse and pony kids. I announced all of her contesting for the 10 years she was in Henry County 4-H.
Really?
Carly, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So we had she's one of our horse and pony kids. Very proud of her as a Henry County 4-H alum.
Well, they got a son, so their son's 5.5 months old, so they're enjoying him right now. So I took it. Maybe there's just a time that letting you enjoy him.
This year's a good year to be at home.
Yeah.
Look for him in Daytona, if nothing else.
Yeah, hopefully that'll happen.
All right,
I have to reach out to Patsy and Brenda now and get these cars sent off to them because they won the contest.
I'm brokenhearted that they left already, man. I looked at them and went, man, those got to go home with me. It's all right, Sarah.
I might, if you guys are really good, I might get you guys one. Okay.
Very good, Sarah. Hopefully, Sarah lets me take one home at some point. Mark, tell me what you think. Final thoughts. You got anything to pitch? Get kids to join 4-H. Buy your corn.
That'd be great. Any adults out there that are looking to help Jeremiah and I out with the junior leaders, we're looking for volunteers to split the duties. But yeah, 4-H is a great program.
Audrey said no, Mark. Sorry.
I know we tried. we did bug her about it already.
She helped out. Audrey helped out with the cheese ball day.
Yeah,
that's a permanent fixture.
Yeah, she
said
start,
yes, so she's expected to come back next December.
Exactly. You're penciled in for years to come.
And bring her husband.
Yeah,
she has duties now. She replaced her mom. It's a generational thing. I wound up a 4-H leader because my mom was, and Audrey's mom had the cheese ball, the sweet cheese ball station, and when she got out of 4-H, she bumped up to having to do that volunteer work. So once you guys have that first kid and they 20 years down the road, then Audrey can replace herself.
See, I don't know if my kids are going to do 4-H.
I don't think it's a choice they'll have.
Do you guys have show chickens?
Yeah.
All
right.
Of course.
You can show chickens.
They might show chickens
You
then.
can show pigeons.
You can have
as long as Darren Jacobs lets me have them in Spiceland.
Well, I mean, it would be very sad if Darren ran out the 4-H showbirds out of the county.
Mm-hmm. And a goat. All I want is like 4 hens and 2 goats.
You don't want one goat. One goat is loud. 2 goats are quiet.
I need 2 goats.
You can show your goats too.
Yeah. Carly showed chickens, I think. 1 year.
Okay.
Yeah.
You brush their feathers?
I don't know. I'm going to ask her that. I just seen her have it in her hand on an old picture. It was really funny when we first met. I was planting corn, and she was riding her bike. She was 5 years old, and Dakota was sitting on the trailer with me, and we were planting. And I go, this little girl keeps waving at you over there. And he goes, he was like so embarrassed. I go, you never know, man. You might marry her one day. we farm all the way around her house. And in first grade, she wrote a little card. Carly loves Dakota, and never gave it to him. And she kept it.
Oh,
So,
that's
and,
cool.
they, and they hooked up their senior year of high school. So it's a pretty cool deal. Pretty cool story.
Audrey's in the live chat, and she said that every kid should do 4-H. So
Agreed.
Sold.
we have her support.
There's some pretty good stats out there about how much more successful kids are that do 4-H, and stay out of trouble, go to college more.
There was a
it's
vegan.
really a great program.
There was a vegan video that was put out this week that had me in absolute tears laughing.
Too much soy, man.
I believe your sister shared that.
My sister shared it.
I did see that.
And I was dying laughing because it says it turns you into a serial killer, because the first year you have an animal, you love it and you're attached to it, and by the 10th year you're looking at it as a business transaction. And I said, well, this is where I got my ability to not cry at my wedding, because I went through almost the entire day.
Yeah, but
stone-faced.
Sarah broke the secret and told the world that you did cry. So
Just a touch, just to appear human.
it was like Dexter over here.
Yeah. So I literally had made that joke that I'm like a serial killer. I was holding it together, and then that vegan video came out talking about how 4-H trains you to do that, and I thought, man, this is perfect.
That's pretty good.
So I'm not encouraging you to share it because I don't want that guy to get any more views. But if you happen to see it, it slayed me. It was hilarious. So follow Mark Wenning. Are you Mark Wenning on the Twitter? Or are you on the social medias?
I've got Facebook.
That's it.
That I very rarely use.
Wenning at Purdue.edu still probably.
No. They shut that one down. They don't let you keep that forever.
You don't have it forever. All right. Well, if you need Mark, search him on Facebook. We'll tag him in this. And you want some excavating services or some tiling done, or you want to buy some corn or join 4-H, he's your guy.
Edamame.
Or if you
need to come get a few bean pods to try that out.
If you want to test crop
I
of
can help you out,
edamame.
but you can probably
Okay.
drive a little bit less and go to Craig's.
Yeah.
I'm a little farther out there.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's extra.
But
with
I could
that
stop by the
bridge
Dublin
removed.
I was gonna
skating
say,
rink.
you can barely get to Mark's house right now. You got to go. I don't want to give away too many locations, but unless you go to Try and Turn, that's your best path.
I can
don't,
at least
don't try
I can
taking
at least
Dublin
stop by
Pike
the
in Wilbur-Wright.
I can stop by the Dublin skating rink.
You'll look
whenever
like
I'm
you'll
your
look
way.
the Dukes of Hazzard trying to cross the bridge. It's not there right now, and
Yeah.
it land on I-70.
That'd be pretty fun.
Wilbur Wright Road. You can go north. You can't go south off 70. That's your only hope if you're coming from Ohio. Dakota, final thoughts, man.
Guess my final thoughts are I really liked doing the research for this episode. I know that I created a clickbaity graphic for this one with the wind turbines and everything else that was on there, and I recognize that wind turbines and everything agriculture because of that has really divided our community. But I think that I do think that wind farms are a dead issue in our county at this point. It's just every single bit of evidence. There's no evidence whatsoever that tells me or should tell anybody else that they're even a possibility at this point. And so I want to encourage everybody who is going to vote in the November election to look past it and think of other issues that are actually important, because I don't think that wind is an issue, and I want to tell Susan that she's done a really good job of recognizing this fact, and she's moved past it. Susan Hoon, who's running for county council, and she's been doing a good job of putting other platform issues out there. So I want to say that, and I also want to say that, as always, we have a Patreon supporters Facebook group, and we had some requests to try to get in there, people who aren't Patreon supporters. I put the wall up. I built the wall.
The wall got 10 feet taller.
Yep, and kept them out. So if you're one of those people, and if you're listening, to get in the group, I should have already messaged you, but you do have to join at patreon.com/Boss Hog of Liberty to get in there.
There's a free group, and then there's a premium group.
There's a free group.
All the good chats in the premium group.
That's true. And I also want to remind everybody that we do have a store on redbubble.com. And you go to redbubble.com and you search Boss Hog of Liberty, and you can get all kinds of goodies, coffee mugs, T-shirts, graphic tees, sweatshirts, all kinds of really neat things. You can even get a duvet cover of the Boss Hog of Liberty.
Is that in your living room?
No.
Did you get one yet?
Not yet.
All right. Well, very good. Last chance for me. I'll pitch real quick. We're opening up this new studio, and it could be your named studio. And we are really good at product placement and promoting the hell out of whatever your product is. So if you're looking for the opportunity to be affiliated with the #1 podcast in Henry County, East Central Indiana, drop Dakota or I a DM. We've got some stat sheets and some opportunities here for that. We want to cover some of our costs of the studio. The Patreon thing is nice, but I think we're at the point now where the reach of this show and what we offer, we can actually be a pretty good partner for some local businesses,
Absolutely,
some small businesses.
we can.
So we don't want that to go to waste. There's a chance for this show to help elevate your platform a little bit, and if you're looking for that opportunity, hit us up and we'll reach some sort of agreement.
Yeah, and not just studio sponsors either. If
we
you
can
go
do episodes, we've got different options. But a
yeah,
studio
and
sponsor,
if you go to the Patreon account,
over the shoulder could be your logo here.
That's right,
in the glorious high definition.
But the other two, there's a bonus content sponsor and an
1080p.
episode sponsor. And both of those are actually on the Patreon. I think we decided to go through that platform to do the billing, so that way we don't have to hit people up every month or businesses up every month. If you are interested in doing that, if your business or company or whatever is interested in doing that, then like Jeremiah said, hit me up. We've put together a really nice portfolio for us. It describes all the good things that we have. Jeremiah has a yellow folder of them over here. We have a bunch already printed out for you. So
there you go. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We will catch you next week. I guess it'll be episode 72. Again.
72, yeah.
All right. Got it. Thank you, guys. We don't